Hi everyone, and welcome to the My Career podcast with Pathway CTM. Today we've got Izzy with us. Hi Izzy, how you doing?
Hello, yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Izzy, why are you in the seat today?
So I'm Izzy. I've done an apprenticeship, a level 4 project management apprenticeship with Unilever. I did that for 2.5 years, and now I'm here at Pathway talking to employers, students every single day.
Great, Izzy. Well, today we're going to be looking at what you did at school, your apprenticeship, which we'll speak about, and with what company you did that at, and looking at the here and now in terms of the support and advice you can give to young people, teachers, employers, everyone listening to this podcast for today. So let's get into it.
Let's go.
So Izzy, it's really great that you were able to join us, because I know you were a bit annoyed that you weren't on the podcast first, but we brought you in eventually.
I've made it.
You've made it on, because you work with so many different employers at Pathway. Yeah. You've done an apprenticeship before, and we really want to be able to get apprentice stories out there and just like understand more stories and see what we could be uncovering about them. So I kind of want to go through your schooling, into your apprenticeship, and then into the here and now, and maybe advice that you have along the way, really. So if we start off with taking it right back, where's a good place to start in terms of you thinking about your career, would you say, in school?
I would say year 10, year 11, when everyone starts talking about what A-levels they're going to do, what career they might want when they're older. I was set on journalism, always wanted to be a journalist, thought that was the thing for me. So therefore picked English, media and Spanish as my A-levels. Was really good at Spanish, was good at English, so just went with it. And then media for that kind of journalism side. And then got into A-levels and realised maybe I didn't want to be a journalist because I didn't like English that much. And it was very much a university focused career. And as soon as I remember one day someone said to me, so what university course are you going to do? And I was like, there's no way I'm going to university. I'd never thought about it. I've never wanted to do it. Just could never see myself there. And then that's when I started to think of different career paths that I could go down, what I would like to do, what I wanted to do. And that was really just get into different businesses, start to earn money for myself. I'd been brought up in quite a businessy household. My dad's always owned a company. I could see how it worked and just really kind of wanted to get into that myself. Brilliant.
And how did your school sort of help you along that initial journey of trying to understand what you wanted to do?
They didn't help me a great amount. So when I first started my A-levels, obviously kind of went through it, and then we got into year 13 and it was like, right, UCAS, it's crunch time. And that's when I thought, I'm not doing this. So they kind of reached out to me and said, do you want to write a personal statement? And I didn't set up a UCAS profile. All I had was a CV, and there was no kind of encouragement to check that over or to help me do that. So I just kind of took myself to myself and just did that with my parents, basically, not with the help of my school.
So not doing a UCAS statement, that's quite a big step, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say there was about 6 of us in my whole year group that didn't do a UCAS statement, and I was one of them, and therefore didn't really receive any help about apprenticeships. It was quite a weird time for apprenticeships. It was 2018, so degree apprenticeships had only been out for a couple of years. There was a lot of myths around them. Nobody really understood them. So it was a bit of a risk to even look at apprenticeships. I was in a grammar school. I'd done well for all my school life, so the teachers were really confused, basically, why I didn't want to go to university. But there was no course, there was no career that I really, really, really wanted to do, and therefore I didn't think that it was appropriate for me.
And that's the norm, isn't it? If you're a bright young person, it's go to uni.
Yeah.
And is that the pressure you felt?
Yeah. I felt that I needed to go because everyone else was going. And there was one point where I was looking into courses and my mum and dad said to me, like, do you want to go to any open days? And no, sorry, I said to them, maybe I should go to an open day. And they were like, you've never mentioned it. Like, you're just doing it because everyone else is around you. And I was like, yeah, it's true. So I didn't. And instead we had 3 days that we could use to go to open days. We got 3 days off. And instead I used one and I went to an apprenticeship provider and did like a day there where I could find apprenticeships instead. And I just lied to the school and said that I was going to Bournemouth University, I think.
So they were happy?
Yeah.
So that amount of pressure put on you, you felt you had to lie about where you were going.
Yeah.
And did you know about apprenticeships when you decided not to do the UCAS statement? Did you know about getting a job, etc.?
Not really. We'd had a presentation at school where they spoke about apprenticeships, and I remember I sat there and they started going through degree apprenticeships, and it was the likes of Rolls-Royce, BMW, HSBC, etc. And my mum tapped me and she was like, "This has got to be too good to be true, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, surely this isn't how it works. Like, you can't get a full degree paid for." Went off, kind of researched it myself, started to apply for a few. And then I did realise that degree apprenticeships were so competitive and popular. So then I started looking at level 4s, level 3s, and ended up actually securing a level 4.
Brilliant. So surely here we're looking at like the obstacles to doing an apprenticeship, because
Yeah.
it sounds like you were quite strong-willed
Yeah.
against your school, and you had strength and support from home, and then you went and did your own research to go do that. What about the other 5 or so who didn't do UCAS? Were they similar to you?
There was a few of us. So one of them's our best friend Danny. She didn't want to go to university. I think she did maybe start a UCAS, but was kind of set on apprenticeships. The others, they wanted to go on and do just various different things. Some of them were going to travel, therefore they didn't want to go to university that year. But we were all kind of in the dark. There wasn't much guidance, advice or help. And I know it has changed now, but that's kind of the experience that I had, yeah. It was just each to your own, really.
And how did that make you feel at the time?
Alone. I would say, like, I was scared, I was lonely. All my friends were getting unconditionals. Like, they knew where they was going in September, and I just remember I kept going home and thinking, where on earth am I going to be in September? And I don't know what September, because you finish in June, right? But everyone's got this amazing summer that they've got planned. So I was just thinking, like, what am I going to do in September? And then that's when I started to focus on apprenticeships more than my A-levels. And I was like, I just need a job, because even if I have amazing A-levels, I've got nothing if I've not got anything after this. So I just really started to focus on that, and applied for about 35 to 40 in the end.
35 to 40 apprenticeships applied to, wow.
Yeah.
So you knew you weren't going to uni.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to uni. There was just I just never ever saw myself there, and I didn't want to be pressured to go. Like I never even went round one. I just knew that was not what I wanted to do. And that was it. That's all I knew. That was what I didn't want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I'd ruled that out completely. And I was just going from there, really.
So strong character, because I know you would have been a strong character throughout all of that. What about young people who aren't as strong as you and maybe have the family support? Would they just be pushed to uni in that situation, do you think? Could you see that happening?
Yeah, 100%. Like, there was girls in my school who are some of my best friends now, and they did a UCAS. They applied, they went and looked round, and then now they didn't go to uni in the end, because they felt that wasn't for them when it actually came to results day. And once they'd had their summer, did they really want to go back into education? No. A lot of them did, and that they've done brilliantly out of it. But yeah, if you've not got it, I think it's hard, because unless you go sometimes, you don't know if you don't want to do something until you try. And that's what a lot of them did. They went, they realised this wasn't for me, but I just knew that wasn't for me. So I just went with it. But I think it is easy to be kind of coast into going to university, because that's the norm. And that is what the majority does. But I do think that will change in the next few years, 100%.
Yeah, it's got to, hasn't it? And you've been back into since, giving inspiration and showing people your journey. What would you say to teachers in other schools around the UK as well, what they need to learn from your story?
I just think listen to what that young person wants to do, because that's something that I wasn't listened, to be honest. I wasn't listened to. I kept telling them that I didn't want to go to university, and that was kind of it. There wasn't okay, so what are you good at? What's your skills? And then I would say, like, I'm organised, I'm confident, I like speaking to people, I'm a people person. And then, you think that the careers advisor would maybe help you look for those types of jobs, but it just wasn't really like that. So I would say, like, really listen to them and understand who they are as a person. Strengths profiles are amazing. Like, I would say promote them to young people and give them an idea of what they're good at, because some of them don't know. They've been in education, they might not do sports outside of school, they might not do any extracurricular things, and they might not found their niche yet. It's quite easy not to when you're at school, I think. And just give them the best advice that you can. Send them to Pathway and we'll help them.
Exactly. No, it's a really inspiring story, really, if you reflect back. How do you feel talking about that? It's
just like really weird to me, because I just knew that I wasn't going to go, and that's all I knew. And then I just, applied for them all. I went through 3. I got through to the final stage of 3, went on to do my assessment day at Unilever, loved every minute of it, came home and said, I'm going to work there. And then got the call on, this was on the Friday of Easter half term. On the Monday, I was in my media lesson, got the phone call. They said, you got the job, and I just accepted it there and then.
Wow.
And then I started in the 3rd of September, 2018. So
amazing. Okay. Yeah. And so Unilever.
Yeah.
Did you know much about that company before you applied?
No. So I found the company, applied for it, and then kind of looked into it, and then I was like, oh, I actually know this company. Like, I'm sure if people listening haven't, heard about it, it will be on the back of most products in your house. Sure, Dove, Lynx, Ben & Jerry's, all of those, they own all of those brands. So I hadn't really heard of it. Went online, had a browse, saw that it was project management, and I was like, you know what? I'm quite an organised person. I'm a natural team leader. I'm always kind of leading things that me and my friends are doing, you know, whether we're going on holiday or going wherever. That's kind of my role. So it felt quite natural for me to do that. So I applied for it. It was a level 4, which I was a bit gutted about at the time. But looking back, like, did it really matter? No. You know, level 4 is still amazing.
Why why were you gutted?
Because it was degree apprenticeships that I was looking for, and that's like the natural step, you know. All my friends were going to be getting degrees and I was getting a level 4, and there's a lot of questions, you know, like what does that actually mean? Is it a real degree? No, it's not, but it's also a really recognised qualification, especially one that I did, which is the APM, so Associate Project Manager. You get like letters after your name and stuff if you want them, and a certificate. So I just went on to do that and ended up getting it. Loved it, and then, you know, finished my apprenticeship, and here I am.
So that's another challenge that I'm recognising there, doing a level 4 apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So A levels, etc. You would have been working at level 3,
yeah,
wouldn't you? And then level 4 is obviously an advancement of that, but it's not that degree level. So did you ever have wavering thoughts, thinking, actually, no, I'm not going to be doing the same thing as my peer group in terms of level of qualification?
I did, but then mine was 18 months and theirs was 4 years. And I did take that as an advantage, the timing. And that's what I say to young people now is, I know you really want a degree because your school's telling you that degree apprenticeships are the next best thing, which they are. But if you're not 100% sure that's right for you and you're in a degree for 4 years that an employer is paying for, it's much harder to get out than an 18-month program. And 18 months goes by like that. I literally I couldn't believe it when I finished. I was like, that's it, I've done level 4. And then I could have gone on to do level 6 if I wanted to. But I decided not to because I just wanted to get out and work, which is what I'd always wanted to do. So I decided to decline it and just, you know, carry on at Unilever for another year.
Great. And so you're at level 4 qualification, the highest technically that you've gone to.
Yeah.
Versus your peer group who might have been level 6.
Yeah.
I got a level 6 from Loughborough Uni for a sports science degree that I don't use.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that in the working world? Do you think you'll eventually get a degree, or does it not matter in your head?
For me, it doesn't matter because where I'm at now, I don't need one, and I'm not doing a very specific subject where I would need a degree or would want one. I don't think is necessary really. I've got my level 4 project management skills, which I think are invaluable, and you use them every day without even knowing. So not really, no, I wouldn't go on to do one at the moment.
And I'm hearing quite a lot teachers say, don't do the level 3, don't even do the level 2 or the level 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, my example is probably better saying you've done your level 3 at A level or BTEC, whatever that might be, T levels, and then maybe there's a level 2 at Press a Manger, for example, in hospitality.
Yeah.
Teachers are saying, well, you wouldn't go backwards. What would you say to that, knowing what you know about the market?
Well, I would say any experience is good experience, and it doesn't matter if you have to go backwards to then go forwards, because for some people you might get on a level 3 at Channel 4, you might then do a level 4 and 6, and then you've got a degree with Channel 4. There's always those options. And when you're at university, fair enough, you're getting a level 6, but you've got absolutely no experience unless you've got a placement year. And then sometimes I think a level 3 or a level 2 with experience is more valuable than a degree, because that's all kind of textbook knowledge, theory knowledge. And then you get thrown into the deep end when you're a graduate, and, you know, sometimes you might not be prepared for it as a level 3 or a level 4 person would.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking evidence of that. It working out really well. Would you have ever done that? Like Google's a level 3, for example, for entry level roles. Would you have gone for a level 3 knowing that it's just a route into Google?
100%. Like, I think if you told someone you worked at Google, they wouldn't bat an eyelid if you said it was a level 3 qualification. They're not going to go, oh, but that's the same as your A levels. You work at Google. You know, like, it's pretty impressive if you're 18 years old, you work at Google. That's what people strive for their whole lives. So
why are teachers doing that to our students? Is it because they're so academic and they're just thinking about progression?
I think it's just the way, you know, it's just levels, isn't it? 3, 4, 5 and 6. They just want to work you the way up, but there's more to life than qualifications and, you know, levels, I think, personally. Teachers, it makes sense. They want you to go on and do the best that you can, but is it really for me, if I'd gone on to do a degree and then hated it in year 2, would that have been the best thing for me? Probably not. I could have done my level 4 like I did, loved it, and 2 years later my friends are only in second year and I finished. So there's different ways to look at it for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And some of your peer groups did do apprenticeships as well.
Yep.
What's it like when you're down at the pub and some went to uni and some went to apprenticeships? Like, you have more money in your pocket. I don't know. Have they got better experiences? What's it like?
I think having a friendship group where there's half and half is quite nice, because we all got to experience that uni life, whether we liked it or not. You know, going out, doing the freshers week and living in halls and stuff. We've all done that, going to their houses. But then equally, we've got money to be able to do that, and we could, you know, take time off work and go down and spend the weekends with them. When we're at the pub, you know, it's in the last year or so where they've all graduated, it's been conversations around, you know, grad jobs. Do they work unpaid for a certain amount of time? Internships? Do we know of any grad jobs going in our companies? Is there anything that we can, you know, recommend to them? And I think that's invaluable, the experience that we've got in, you know, just how to write an email to people, you know, how to put yourself out there to employers. They haven't learned any of that at university, and that's been a key difference that I've found, is just the way that you interact with people. Those that went to university maybe have asked more questions around that, and we've supported them, and we're all doing really well. But it was just quite about a year ago when they were leaving uni, what was next was kind of the big question, and we were all a bit more settled than them, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear. So Unilever, how was your experience there?
So yeah, it feels like ages. Well, it was quite a few years ago now. Started in September 2018. I was in a really kind of niche team, which was called Research Innovation. And essentially it was part of Consumer Market Insights. So it's a bit of an off stem to marketing, where you talk about, you know, different colours of products and what do the consumers want and where should we place them in the aisles, in Boots, etc. So I was in a team which I had no idea even existed, so it was like a massive eye-opener to marketing, consumer marketing, you know, psychology behind it. And I was the first apprentice that they'd had, so it was like, you know, oh, here she is, here's the new girl, which was really nice, and they were all lovely. But in terms of the kind of program side of it, I'm not sure if people know this, but you kind of work for Unilever, but you do your program with someone else. So I did my program with a training provider, and I learnt through them. And we went to like a classroom in London every month. We did webinars, we learnt about the different areas, and then I went through to endpoint assessment, did my exam, passed that, and then went on to do my discussion and presentation, which was kind of the hardest part because you have to link it all back to Unilever. But yeah, it was a great experience. I'm so happy I did it. And then in March of 2020, obviously COVID hit, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I've just finished my apprenticeship. And thankfully there was a lady going on maternity leave. So then I took her role for a year until May 2021. And then now I'm here.
Amazing. And yeah, we're lucky to have you. So the on-the-job learning mixed in with actually doing the job, so to speak. So does that work pretty well?
Yeah, so we got to decide with our manager when we wanted off. I had every Friday off. Some people did 2 half days, people did Mondays, but that worked for me. And when I say off, I mean you're doing homework questions. It's very much like being at school, but I found it a lot more interesting than being at school. You know, you're working in a business, you're writing essays about project management and business management and project life cycles. It's so useful. So yeah, I found it, I enjoyed it, loved it, and then had like textbook. It was so different to school. I loved the learning side of it. But the only thing that was quite difficult was linking it back to day-to-day work, because I wasn't necessarily a project manager, but I was doing a project management qualification. So I was just trying to link it back to what I was actually doing. It was quite difficult, but then my managers and team helped me. So
fine, okay. Hey, a question, like I think only about 7% of apprentices come at those of the age of 16.
Yeah.
Versus maybe 18 plus.
Yeah.
Would you have done that at 16, do you think, looking back, or was that too early?
I think that was not even an option in my brain. Like everyone at my school, if you did GCSEs, you just went on to sixth form. There wasn't, unless you really, really struggled and you wanted to be, you know, someone in hair and beauty, for example, or you wanted to go on to be a carpenter, then you would go to college and study for that. But that wasn't an option at all for us. Looking back, I would have much preferred it to A-levels because I did really struggle with them. But I do think that I struggled as well because I was putting so much of my time into looking for apprenticeships. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I kind of let the academic side slip a little bit. Not too, like I still got my A-levels, but I didn't do as well as maybe I could have.
So again, I suppose if your school were to show you the options earlier, that would have potentially benefited you.
Yeah, and I think between 16 and 18, like that I changed quite a bit. So I knew maybe at 16 I would have gone to do a level 3 in journalism. and then been like, this is not for me, whereas that 2 years did help me. But having the option would have been amazing. And courses that were local to us, employees that were local to us, like we really didn't have a clue in Kent, you know, who was around and where we could go. And would I have wanted to travel every day to London at 16? Probably not.
No. Okay. No, makes sense. Hey, Izzy, so Unilever, why did you leave there?
So I left Unilever because unfortunately, if you're doing an apprenticeship with them, you're not guaranteed a role at the end, which I think has changed for the degree apprentices. I'm not 100% sure. But so I did 18 months. And then, as I said, someone in my team was going on maternity leave. So they said, right, we'll extend your contract for a year. And that was at the heat of COVID. So thank goodness they did, because I don't know where I would have been otherwise. So they extended it for a year. Then it came to the year round date and they said, we can extend it for 3 months, we can extend it for 6 months, we can extend it for 9 months, time and time again. And I just said, I can't do this. Like, I want to buy a house, I want to get a mortgage, I need some sustainability. I can't just keep chopping and changing my job every 3, 6 or 9 months. So I made the decision to leave, and I left.
Yep. Okay.
And here I am.
This is where apprenticeships get the bad rap, don't they?
Yeah.
Because technically an apprenticeship means that you could finish that contract and you're not going to be on payroll, and that's the end of the stint at that company. But that's not how most companies work, is it?
No.
Could you maybe now give us a bit of an overview of maybe the companies you're working with at the minute in your job at Pathway and what the market looks like?
100%. So when I was looking for apprenticeships, as I've said, I applied for 35 to 40. I was applying for anything that sounded at least a tiny bit interesting to me. I was so desperate to get one. And then I got through to the final stage of 3, accepted Unilever and didn't even carry on with the other 2. Now, I would not do that now, knowing what I know about the market. Take as many as you can, go to as many interviews as you can, because you can accept them, you can take the offers, and then you can decide at a later date what you do. I think that's basically what I would say about, offers and what I would do. And
because it's a bit annoying that Unilever do that, for example.
It is.
Some other companies do work in that way, but the majority of your companies that you work with
don't. No. And because they realise how much time and effort they input into you. And then, if you're doing a degree apprenticeship at HSBC, they want you to be in that company. Same with IBM. My friend Danny, who's at IBM, she did her degree apprenticeship there. She got a first class degree in business management, and now she's working there, in a really great role. So people do want to take you on, and they invest in you. And like, your manager spent 4 years with you if you've done a degree apprenticeship. So it's not the norm. And now I've come out of that, I realise, should I have gone with Unilever? Because, I was so lucky to get that 1 year placement. If I didn't, and I was 19, 20 years old at the beginning of a pandemic that we thought was only going to last 3 weeks, and it ended up by lasting 2.5 years, I don't know where I would be. So I would say maybe don't just take every opportunity, ask questions, because they will probably say to you, you might get an apprenticeship, but ask like the numbers, like, okay, so how many people actually get through? Are you hiring? Are you on a hiring freeze? Things like that. Yeah,
okay. So what sort of advice would you have for teachers when they're looking at apprenticeships? Because they might hear that example where it used to be like that quite a lot. You do an apprenticeship and you don't get the job at the end of it.
Yeah.
But they need to look a little bit deeper, because I think one of the annoying things about the apprenticeship market is that it is different per company, isn't it?
Yeah, it is different per company, and that's what the young person needs to decide for themselves. You can help them with their CV, you can help them with their interviews, you can help them with where to look for apprenticeships, but that individual also needs to do the work themselves and find out, okay, HSBC, let me have a little look on LinkedIn. How long's that person been there? Have they done an apprenticeship, for example? Reach out to us, we can put you in touch with apprentices. Use your network. Do you have any older siblings or cousins, etc., that have got friends that have done apprenticeships, and just see what companies do. But you also might not want a confirmed job at the end of it, because you might think, right, I'm going to do my apprenticeship, then I'm going to go, traveling and do what I want, because that's also what some people do. And they also think that sometimes you're trapped into that role if you do an apprenticeship, which you're absolutely not.
And that's an interesting point to come on to, is that sort of gap year and traveling that students might get when they go to university in the summer. Is that just in your situation? Do you just maybe try and fit that in, maybe leave a job or just try and do that a bit later?
Yeah, I think so. That's one thing that I'm always a bit gutted about, that I didn't do. But at the time, you're 18 years old, how much money do you really have to go travelling? Not a lot. And then I would have had to work to get the money anyway. So I just thought, I'll work, get the money, and then go at a later date. But that is something that I always think about universities. You've got the whole summer, but then you've got no money. So, you can decide how you want to use that, I guess.
Can't have it all.
No, you can't have it all.
So in your role then, Izzy, you're an absolute star, speaking to employers all the time, also supporting students.
Yeah.
Hey, if you were like advising Izzy Miller,
Yeah.
In your current role, what sort of opportunities do you think that she should be applying to?
So I would say go out and do work experience, go to like taster days, open days, insight events, learn about the companies, because I applied for them all, you know, didn't know much about them at all, had never seen their office. You know, when I was at Unilever, we hosted open evenings where we invited people to come along and I spoke at those. But I never did anything like that before mine. I went in on my interview day and that was the first time I'd ever seen it. And I know now a lot of people don't even see the office on their interviews. They just are behind a screen. It's all virtual. So I would say get out there, do a lot of work experience, find out what you want to do. I did work experience in a production company in marketing, realised that's not what I wanted to do, and then kind of ruled that out. You know, what excites you, what doesn't, even like make a list of what you want to do with your life. Do you want to buy a house when you're 25? Are you not that bothered? Do you want to go and live in Australia till you're 30? Things like that, and then work backwards and see where you need to get to. That's what I would say to do. Talk to as many people as you can. You know, force your careers advisors to help you. I wish I'd been a bit more on it with them. But I think because I had such a good, you know, strong home life that helped me with that, I didn't really need to. But I just feel sorry for people that might not have parents as supportive about apprenticeships and they don't know where to go, and therefore they go to university and then they drop out in year 2 because it wasn't right for them.
Yeah, no, it's well said. Izzy, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you were applying
gosh.
to one apprenticeship as an 18-year-old now, which one would it be, knowing the clients that we work with and the good opportunities out there?
Oh, it would probably be HSBC or Deutsche Bank.
Why?
Something about wealth and banking, and it's just exciting, isn't it, in the city? in the city.
No, it's really interesting. So student support side,
Yeah.
really supporting students, which you do, and I know we've got a wider team that do that.
Yeah.
Specialised role. What would you be thinking, again, if you were to be applying? I'm going to take you through each stage, okay? So just application form, just what comes into your head.
Put it in a Word document, copy the questions into a Word document, write it out there, get someone to check it, and then tailor it for every single job you apply to. Don't just copy paste, because they'll know. And always mention the company and their values and their mission statement in what you're putting in. Yeah. That's the advice I would give.
It's good advice. I'm making notes myself. And then we move on to psychometric testing or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think, you know, it is hard. If you're timed, it's even harder. But try and do some examples online. Watch YouTube videos about it. If you can, ask peers if they've done it. Ask siblings again. But there's lots of things you can Google about it and learn. And also ask the hiring managers, because they want to help you. And there's events that you can come to, like we do application clinics. Come along. They'll tell you all about it. I'm sure there's some sections on their website that you can read. Just going prepared, because you don't want to mess it up.
Video interview?
Video interview, I always used to stick post-it notes around the laptop screen and with like key things. Print out the job description if there is a job description, and highlight and put for every single point why you're good at that point. I did that for my job here, which is video interview. And just like, you know, be yourself, act like it's a really normal conversation, ask questions about them. You know, I have 3 questions about them. What do they do? I think that's it for video interview.
Nice.
Don't want to overwhelm people.
No. Assessment centre.
Okay, I used to watch this program called The Interview before I did my assessment centre, and it was like, as soon as you walk through that door, you've got to be the best version of yourself. If it's on reception, you know, if there's a doorman, you've just got to be the nicest version that you can be, because sometimes people come out of interviews and they go to the receptionist and say, oh, who stood out for you? Oh, it was the girl in the white blazer, which is what I was on my day. When I did my assessment day, it's like, oh, it was the girl in this, or, you know, you just want them to remember you, but also be yourself. Don't be like someone fake and say that you know, go for a run every Saturday if you don't, because they'll find out and they'll see that you're not authentic.
What about if there's a group activity in that assessment centre?
Group activity, I would say always speak up, but don't be like, you know, really bossy and, you know, overpower. Obviously,
challenge for you, that.
Yeah. Mine was project management. So there was 4 want-to-be project managers. So we could have all been like really over the top in mine, but we weren't. It's making sure everyone speaks, having someone to like time it. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes for this task. Let's look at that. Making sure, encouraging people's thoughts, thinking about them. If you don't think it's right or you don't agree with that, not just being like, no, that's an awful idea, but being like constructive at the same time. I think I did all of those. pretty well.
Good. And finally, pre-interview, interview and post-interview. Any tips there?
So I would try and find out about what type of interview it is, because the one that I did was strengths-based interview, which was something that I'd never done before. So they said to me, like, collaboration, tell me about a time that you've been collaborative. And I was like, oh gosh, I've not kind of prepped for this. I've only prepped for why I'm organised, why I'm confident, and why I think I should be good at the job. So yeah, I would kind of look into that if you can. Capfinity, strengths based as well. You can get a profile that tells you your top skills, weaknesses. I would prepare as much as you can, but don't recite the answers, because it'll probably sound like you're a robot if you do that. But just be honest, give real life examples. You don't have to have done it in your part-time job. I remember one of my examples about being organised was that I'd planned my whole group's holiday for after our A-levels. There was 14 of us, 10 boys, 4 girls. I planned a whole trip to Portugal, and that was my example, and she loved it. So it worked.
No, I love it. And what about after an interview? Any tips there? Sometimes people just leave it there, but could you do anything else?
I think if you when you say goodbye to the person, be like, thanks so much for ask some questions again. You could always drop them an email and say it was really great to meet you. Here's a copy of my CV if you needed it, something like that. I feel like that's what people do now, but I didn't do that. But it's a really good thing to do.
No, definitely. It's really good to hear that from you, Izzy.
Yeah.
And I suppose, what can teachers, hopefully teachers can show this to their students, because you just rattle through how to basically ace any sort of interview process.
Yeah.
But what can they get from Pathway CTM in terms of and what we do with Max, student support, and your team?
Yeah, so I think, if you're at that beginning stage where you've just got no idea what to do, like we've all been there, I've been there, recently, we can talk to you, we can help you with what what do you want to do, what don't you want to do. Sometimes it's easier to rule out what you don't want to do. Do you want to work in the police? Do you want to work in the NHS, for example? What kind of roles are you good at? What are you good at? What's your strengths in your personal life, in your school life? We can help you with those, and we can kind of prompt you with that. Come to our events, find out about the employers, because again, you can rule them out. You can think that's my dream employer, especially the in-person days. They're invaluable. I think if I could have gone to one every half term, I would have, but they weren't really a thing when I was at school. So yeah, get work experience, talk to employers as much as you can, talk to your family and friends. Do they know anyone that you can maybe do mock interviews with, and just get as much experience as you can, really. That's the advice that I would give, that we can help you with, and we can put those connections in place.
And finally, how do you feel about your role and what you're doing at the minute, the fact that you've actually lived the experience of an apprentice, and now you're helping tens of thousands of young people do the same potentially?
Yeah, it's so full circle, because I would have literally loved to have what I have now, and that's why I love what I do every single day, because I'm helping people that were like me, and I see myself in so many of the questions that they ask me. So I just think, it's amazing to work with all the young people that we do, the schools, the relationships, the employers, and just matching the two together is, the dream, is what I would have wanted. So
brilliant. Izzy, it's been amazing to have time with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for giving up your time in your busy schedule.
No worries.
And yeah, you obviously, the audience will know this by listening and watching. Inspirational, really, in terms of the story that you've taken, and how you've got there.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get more young people doing that. Teachers recognising they've got to give a bit more support,
Yeah.
like they are doing, and employers making sure that they keep their talent afterwards as well, because
100%.
Unilever should be gutted to let you go.
Yeah, thank you. If anyone needs anything, always here. There's an email or LinkedIn. Happy to help.
Great, thanks, Izzy.
Thank you.